Hello there, welcome to Blitz Transmissions. This is the Blitzcast number 54. I'm Tommy. Before we get into the content of this week's episode of the Blitzcast, as always, you can check out the laundry list of links that can be found in the description below. If you're watching on YouTube or if you're not watching on YouTube, subscribe to Blitz Transmissions because I've got awesome Star Wars content coming out all the time. If you're an ARC Trooper in my Patreon, you would have seen this podcast episode early. If you'd like access to all my content early, as well as monthly giveaways, other awesome benefits, the link to my Patreon is in the description below. Become an ARC Trooper for just $4.99 a month. If you're a fan of the reviews I do on YouTube, or you just want to check out the YouTube channel more directly, show it some more extra support, you can also check out my YouTube channel membership, Rancor Battalion, for just 99 cents a month. It gives you access to exclusive badges and priority replies in my comment section. You get to check out my reviews early on YouTube as opposed to all my content like you get with Patreon, and you get to vote on what I review next for the channel, as the Patreon members do as well. If you'd like some swag, like this Blitz Transmissions t-shirt I've got on with the small logo on the front, big logo on the back, or this Blitz Transmissions trucker hat I'm wearing right now, then you can check out the Blitz Transmissions Armory over on Printify. That link can be found in the description below, as well as links to my Discord server, my Instagram, my Blitz Bounties Instagram, my X page, my TikTok, and don't forget, you can always email me at blitztransmissions@gmail.com. So, we have another week of nothing. We had a little bit of a jump scare. Not a jump scare. More of I guess, for lack of a better term, I guess we kind of got blue-balled this week in Star Wars news, didn't we? But I'll get into that in a second. As far as Blitz Transmissions goes, I've got lots of content coming out. I have content lined up for several days, and if you're on Patreon or in the channel membership, all the reviews that are already out right now are available to you. If you want to check those out early, I've got some Hot Toys reviews coming up. I've got some Micro Galaxy Squadron reviews, Black Series reviews, all kinds of reviews coming up. So keep an eye out for that stuff. As far as content, since our last podcast episode, I had reviews for the Hasbro The Black Series Gaming Greats, KX Security Droid Enforcer, and Droidica 2-pack from Jedi Survivor. I reviewed the Hot Toys ARC Trooper Echo, as well as the Black Series Dathomir Witch Halloween Edition and the Night Trooper Halloween Edition. So, considering I was able to get 4 reviews out this week, I'd say that's pretty good. I've been making a lot better use of my free time recently, and I think just having a better way of dealing with the stressors that I've been dealing with recently in life, and kind of leaning into things that are constructive instead of destructive and positive instead of negative, I've been able to really hone in on what I love and what I enjoy, and make the most out of it. So I've been really enjoying doing that. Back into the full swing of things. I have tons. There's a pile next to me that you can't see on the floor right here of just items that I have to review. Several of them have been voted on by Patreon members and channel members, but the rest of them have not. So I'll post another pool of items here pretty soon. Yeah, we did have a jump scare for Star Wars news this week. We do have a little bit of news to cover. So on one end, on Star Wars news, we did get a leak. I saw some sort of rumor going around that 2 days ago now, the Mandalorian Season 3 trailer was randomly going to drop, and the day came and went. And we have boom, 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 wow, nothing. Boo. I wonder when they're going to start marketing this movie that's coming out in what is it? It's got to be 6. We're coming up in 6 or. I almost said it. Coming up about 6 months or so, a little more than that, until the Mandalorian and Grogu movie drops. So I don't know. We'll have to see. I hope it comes out soon. I think I've seen. It's probably AI generated. I've totally not seen the leaked version of the trailer. Oops, was I supposed to say that out loud? But yeah, what do we got going on here? Notifications. Okay. Yeah, and then also there's been some news with Star Wars Starfighter. So they're starting filming. We got to see a cool shot of Ryan Gosling and his name escapes me. He plays the kid. Oh, that's going to kill me. We're going to have to look up the Star Wars Starfighter cast while I do that. They're on some sort of... They look like they're kind of marooned somewhere. So they've got, like, water all around them. Yes, it looks like they've started filming. What's his name? Flynn Gray. That's who I was thinking of. So we got Ryan Gosling and Flynn Gray on set on a physical location, or what appears to be one, on some sort of water world where I assume they were flying in a starfighter and subsequently crashed. Yeah, it's cool. I'm excited for that movie, mildly. Not really, actually. I think it's like just the excitement of Star Wars being in the theater again. Hopefully the movie's really, really good. I need some really, really good Star Wars in my life, I think. Let's see. What do we got going on? So other than that, though, guys, I don't think there's really any news to talk about Star Wars-wise. I mean, I've pretty much covered everything that's new on the channel. I've pretty much covered all the news. So everybody have a good week, and we'll see you for the next one. May the Force. Just kidding. I decided, after we had such a heavy topic last week, very philosophical, we got all philosophical, we got all warm and fuzzy. I think it's time to have a nice light topic this week, especially with Star Wars news remaining so dry. I think it's good to have a light week this week, and I decided, you know what? I feel like I talk so much about myself on this podcast, whether it's like my, religious beliefs or my, philosophical beliefs, or, just like very deep thought-provoking topics, or so I think they are. So I was like, you know what, why don't I just tell you guys, like, I feel like I haven't talked about my Star Wars opinions. I feel like I'm always either with someone else, or I'm like, there's news to cover or something else. So let me just go into some general Star Wars takes here. Some of these might be hot takes, some of these might be controversial, hopefully not offensive, but I think I have some pretty solid opinions on Star Wars media. So, I know recently Jen and I did our rankings of all the Star Wars series and all the Star Wars movies, so I'm not going to, give you my takes on all that stuff. I'm just going to kind of just dive into several different topics, kind of tell you what some of my favorites and my least favorites are from different things. Some of my favorite Star Wars characters, I think that's a good place to start, kind of give you an idea of where I'm at. So, obviously a big one is Clone Captain Rex. I have the J guys. You can see them here. I have them tattooed on my left shoulder. The J guys right there. Captain Rex, I was just hooked on. You guys know if you watch the podcast. Hooked on from day one. Second I saw the Clone Wars movie, I was hooked on Captain Rex. And he just really embodies a lot of what I want to be as a leader. Just if I want to be a leader, I need to, whether it's in the workplace or, in the community, things like that. I think Rex is a great, example of what a great leader is. Having humility, having an open mind, being able to understand, being adaptable, being strong, both physically and vocally. Just having a heart, I think, is a big one too. Having the ability to understand people, Captain Rex is a big one. One that I don't talk about very much, though, I feel like. I if you know me, you know he's one of, like, my most favorite characters. I'm obsessed with the guy, is Grand Admiral Thrawn. Now, Grand Admiral Thrawn is one of my favorite characters because I read the Thrawn books by Timothy Zahn, not the original ones, not like Heir to the Empire. I read the trilogy of Thrawn books when I was in college. So it's Thrawn... oh my god, I have the books under my desk here. Let me see if I can remember. Thrawn Elite, Thrawn Alliance. Oh my, I'm a fake fan. I say I read these books and, oh man, I haven't looked at them in such a long time. Let's see. It's Thrawn Alliances, and then Thrawn Treason. Okay, those are the three I've read. Those all take place, around the time in-universe Star Wars Rebels happens, before Star Wars Rebels. So, I guess Treason kind of takes place during Rebels, but yeah, Alliances in the first book are really, really good. Honestly, when I was in college, I went in a Star Wars reading kick, and I chose to pick up the Thrawn books, and that was something that was a lot of fun for me to get into, but I also just really fell in love with the character of Thrawn. Obviously, I knew him from Rebels. I knew of him as a Star Wars character before that, but I didn't really care much for Thrawn as opposed to like stuff that I grew up with, the prequel trilogy, the Clone Wars, Battlefront games. Like that was a lot more of what I cared about. And it's funny, original trilogy stuff didn't really appeal to me until I became an adult. That is something I will get into next, but yeah, Grand Admiral Thrawn, I just love how thought-provoking he is and how, how cool of a character he can be. Fun fact, this is kind of cringe. When I was in college, I was so obsessed with Thrawn that I had a then Twitter account, which I branded as a Thrawn account, and I would reply to posts as Thrawn, and then I kind of got in touch with a guy who like did like an Emperor kind of like role-playing account, and so we would reply back and forth to each other on public threads, and it was like really fun. Like it was a like fun thing online. People really liked it, but we didn't really never caught any like, exciting, didn't catch any excitement, never went viral or anything like that. It was just something fun that we did, and it definitely kind of fell off over time. I don't remember. It probably fell off around the time that I started a different YouTube channel, so I guess I'll get into that, because I don't think I've ever really talked about that publicly. But I'm losing my train of thought. This is what happens. So see, I'm talking about myself. I'm talking about, my Star Wars experience. Because you guys know the gist. Like, you guys know, like, that I grew up with the Clone Wars. I like it more than the prequel trilogy. I think it's the best thing in Star Wars. I love clones, yada, yada, yada. You've heard it 1,000 times. So I guess I'm trying to be a little bit different with this one. Okay, let's see. So Thrawn, I wish I might have to hit pause and rewind this. It was, I need to write this down as I go. It was Thrawn. I was talking about the books. That's what I was on track of. So I never really cared for the original trilogy as a kid. I'm going to say it. Because I was such a prequel and Clone Wars kid, I didn't really have a lot of deep interest in the original trilogy. I definitely, like, when I played, like, Lego Star Wars The Complete Saga as a kid on my Xbox, or then it was the PlayStation 2. Yeah, I played on Xbox. I replayed it on Xbox recently, but it was the PlayStation 2 when I was a kid. And I loved the prequel movie levels way more than the original trilogy levels. They were just so much more fun, and the environments were a lot more visually engaging to me. You can call it, like, my brain rot, whatever. And obviously Clone Troopers. Anything Jedi, Clone Troopers, Battle Droids, I was all over it. General Grievous, all that cool stuff. I have to say, the original trilogy, I really liked the Death Star stuff in the whole Death Star sequence in A New Hope. I really, really loved. I really like Hoth, that whole sequence on Hoth and Empire. And then in Return of the Jedi, it was the Jabba's Palace sequence. Everything else for me was just kind of like whatever. Like, I didn't really have like a deep attachment to it the way I did with like the prequels and the Clone Wars, especially like 2003 Clone Wars. That was probably like my favorite Star Wars thing when I was like a small child, even before 2008 Clone Wars came out. Like 2003 Clone Wars micro series was probably like my go-to Star Wars thing. We had Volume 1 and Volume 2 on DVD, and I'd watch those suckers on repeat. But yeah, I guess back into like my college years, because I've only started Blitz Transmissions just over a year ago. Would have been like, honestly, we're coming up on a year and 2 months ago I started Blitz Transmissions. I was in Star Wars very heavily. I think in my adult life, I've talked about before, why 2019, I think I even have like a whole video on it on the channel, why 2019 was such a big year for me for Star Wars, and why I think it was a big year just for the fandom in general. You had the massive success of The Mandalorian, which like really made me like obsessed with Star Wars as for the first time in my young adult life, after being way into the MCU in high school and stuff. And then I also had Jedi Fallen Order, loved that game, absolutely loved that game. So I was in it in the video game side, and obviously Battlefront 2 was still huge at the time in 2019. It was still like actively getting updates and things like that. So and was having active support. So I had video games to play that were Star Wars. I had 2 video games I was really interested in, one being a single-player game, one being a multiplayer game. I had this show that I was really obsessed with, and then there was Rise of Skywalker, and while it's not my favorite Star Wars movie, it was a lot of fun I remember going to the theater with friends multiple times, and just going and, watching the movie, and then we'd go to, in my area, we have Sheets. You'd go, they're open 24 hours a day, so you'd go to Sheets, and everyone would get their little made-to-order meals, and then we'd all sit there, and I remember we all downloaded an app called Letterboxd, and you could, rank movies, and so we all made our rankings of all the Star Wars movies, and, compared them to each other, and, everybody had, radically different lists, which just made it so much more fun. But when I was in, when I was in college, my freshman year, I was really into collecting Lego Star Wars. That was the 20th anniversary of Lego Star Wars, so I was buying all the commemorative sets. I think I had all of them, actually. If I remember right, I think it was the Slave One. Boba Fett's starship. Anakin and Sebulba's pod racers. It was a Kashyyyk battle pack. It was a pretty good lineup of sets, and I had all the 20th anniversary minifigs to go with it. And then I started getting really into Funko Pops my freshman year of college. That was my Star Wars Funko Pop era, and then that died pretty quickly. I want to say in 2020 I started really getting into Black. I started collecting Black Series at the end of 2019, but I started really getting into it in 2020, and I sold off almost all my Funkos because of that. But there was another part of that where, as I started to get into Black Series, I took it upon myself. I wanted to be some sort of Star Wars news page on Instagram. So, and Twitter. I think I was on Instagram and Twitter with this account, and it was called Star Wars Outlet. That was the account. And what I would do was every time there was a reveal for a product that I liked, whether it was Black Series, Lego, Gentle Giant, I would post some of the promo pics, line them up, and I'd make a post talking about the reveal and things. And it was a Star Wars news page also. It was very amateur. Wasn't honestly looking back today, I'd be I would never follow that page. But it was the time, I feel like COVID was really the time to of trying new things and dipping your toes into stuff, because it was not a lot of consequence to it, and also a lot more free time on your hands during COVID. Excuse me. Sorry, I'm on third shift right now, and I'm just really tired during the day. After this, I'm going to be taking a nap. But it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed Star Wars Outlet, but I also ran into something else. So this is something fun. So I had Star Wars Outlet. It doesn't exist anymore. Actually, on Instagram, my Blitz Bounties page now is the same account that Star Wars Outlet used to be. So if you scroll down far enough on Blitz Bounties, you will find all my posts from my Star Wars Outlet page. And actually, I bet I could do it right now if I just get on Instagram and I scroll down. But that was something that was a huge part of my my life at the time. I was really, really obsessed with Star Wars. So then I had 2 friends that I was really interested in Star Wars with. 2 brothers, Jacob and Jackson. They run the YouTube channel 1313 Podcast, and I was on that with them. The 3 of us started 1313 Podcast back in 2021. So that's pretty funny. So that was one of those where we had this shared interest for Star Wars. And podcasts were everybody was starting a podcast at the time in 2021, because again, it was one of those everyone was starting it because what's the best way to say it? Everyone was starting a podcast because again, everyone had free time. So I just went ahead and Jacob and Jackson started 1313 Podcast. I have obviously since broken off and created Blitz Transmissions, but if you want to see some much younger, much less facial hair, much thinner Tommy content, then you can see the 1313 Podcast episodes. I think they have well over 100 episodes of their weekly podcast now. Here we go. So this whole time I've been scrolling back on my on my Instagram. So if you go with Blitz Bounty, so you'll see like some older posts here where I'll just post like figures I got, and then down here I've got some just reveals. What were they revealing at the time? Let's take a look. This would have been May 5th, 2021. They revealed the Mandalorian Death Watch helmet. So there you go. There's I had a lot of fun with it, man. I post about Funko Pops, like all kinds of stuff. It's actually kind of fun to look at, like looking back here. Wow. Crazy. That's actually wild. Oh my god, March 26, 2021. They have here's the set for Andor. It's Rick's Road from Ferrix. All right, I need to stop doing this because I'll just get lost in that. That's a trip down memory lane. But yeah, if you want to see some old content of me, you need to go check out 1313 podcast. That's like a whole chapter of my life that I don't really talk about on Blitz Transmissions. You can see all kinds of stuff there. We used to do our city's Comic-Con. We did that for just I want to say 2 years in a row. Definitely not 3. We did it for about 2 years in a row. We did our local Comic-Con. We had a booth, and that's how we met some familiar faces on the channel, like 212 Hunter, like Skywalker Hendrix, like Hybrid Toy Reviews, Phantom Menace Dennis. Those are all faces that we met through Comic-Con in our city. So that was a lot of fun. But yeah, so that really is where a lot of my current, Star Wars stuff developed. Now, I will say I've grown a lot since then. Some of the opinions that I had on the podcast are not opinions that I have now on this podcast. So definitely let it be known that you're probably going to go in there, because I know there's definitely some clips of me in there really glazing the sequel trilogy. Ooh! I don't know if I feel that way about it anymore. But again, opinions change over time. People grow and they adapt, and I just think it's fun to, I've been going back recently and watching some old episodes, and I'm like, dude, what the, like some of the stuff I say, I'm like, wow, that's like a really, now with how informed I am on stuff now, I'm like, wow, that's a good take to have as a complete amateur to the, completely, ignorant to, like, all the inner workings of how, things work, whether it's Hasbro or Lucasfilm, you name it. Speaking just, strictly from the fan perspective, I was like, wow, I was really on the money with that one. And then 5 minutes later, I'd say something else. I'd be like, oh, which I guess, let me get into my, because it's such a topic everyone loves to hear about. And I kind of opened the door to the topic. But when it comes to the sequel trilogy, here's where I'm at. I think, and I think I've talked about this on the podcast before, but the sequel trilogy isn't my favorite thing in Star Wars at all. But you know what I do with things that I don't really care about or like? I just tend to look in the other direction and focus on the things that I do like, whether it's stuff that's already come out or other things I might want to look forward to. I personally, I get really tired of the sequel trilogy debate, like where I get equally as mad, about the toxic negativity as I do the toxic positivity toward that trilogy of movies, especially considering that this year is the Force Awakens 10th anniversary, and there are still people who make like video essays on the sequel trilogy like it just came out this year. It's just like, I feel like I get it. If you're trying to grow a YouTube channel, it's such a good topic to pick because you're going to grab so much attention from like the trilogy's defenders and its haters, and like most people in pop culture that don't even pay attention to Star Wars are a lot more likely to listen to a video about the sequel trilogy than anything else. But yeah, I mean, you can see it down here on the corner of the screen if you're watching on YouTube or Spotify. I do have all my First Order Stormtrooper figures, and then I have you never see this one on screen. I have a Battlefront shelf from the Battlefront franchise, and I have like Kylo Ren, Rey, Captain Phasma, like I have sequel trilogy figures down there, BB-8, so like I in the form of like video games and stuff, like I like everything sequel trilogy from Battlefront 2, the 2017 release, and I think the movies are fine. Like, again, I have a strong attachment to, this is a super hot take, but again, you guys know this by now. Like, I have a very strong personal attachment to the story of Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi because I feel like it's a great lesson that's told through his story arc in that movie. I understand all the complaints with it. I just, for me personally, that's how I feel about it. I really enjoy it. His story arc specifically, not the whole movie. But yeah, I feel like at the end of the day, that movie in particular, it's I feel like it's like beating a dead horse at this point. And I'm interested to see, according to like the 20-year rule, how the kids that grew up with the sequel trilogy are going to be talking about it. Is it going to be the same as it was with the prequel trilogy? And you can say definitively yes or no, but I feel like we won't really know until we get to another good 10 years from now. I'd say 7 to 10 years from now is when we'll really start hearing voices from people who grew up with the sequel trilogy. Yeah, that's my take on that. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to remember if I have anything else, because I keep putting these mental pins in things that I'm saying. Yeah, but when it comes to the sequel trilogy, I'm just over the conversation. It's not my favorite, but I'd rather just talk about other stuff than get into the weeds for the 7 millionth time about, well, if you watch the Rey and Kylo versus Praetorians fight frame by frame, you notice this, this, and this. Yeah, we get it. It's, it's not meant to be watched frame by frame. I hate to break it to you. It doesn't mean the choreography's not bad. It just means that, I think you're digging a little bit when you do that, As far as some other controversial content here, since I'm just on the topic of controversial content, so I can get it out of the way, I think that the Book of Boba Fett is a good show. I think it's a good show. Could it have been better? Probably, but I'm happy with what we got generally. I really love the finale episode, except for the parts, sure you guys know, where we have the whole city folk, city slickers versus small town folk cringe one episode, whatever you want. I don't even call it an arc, whatever the hell you want to call that. And then there's also the the whole thing with Boba Fett and the flashbacks and stuff. I love that. I love the Pikes as the villains. I love that they brought Cad Bane in. And if you know anything about Boba Fett from Clone Wars Boba Fett, you know about those unfinished episodes of the Clone Wars with Boba Fett and Cad Bane. I think those are great. That's a great tie-in to that. I don't know. I really like the show. It's fun. It's a fun show. It's not deep, thought-provoking Andor level Star Wars, but it's just a fun show. And I really don't understand the hate behind that show. Oh, that was the other thing I was thinking. The mods. Yeah, the mods are silly and stupid. It's just it's a concept that for me didn't really land. But for me, it's there's some awesome kick-ass fight scenes. There's a Rancor in the final episode. I know, oh, big monster. Wow, you little poopy. Dude, I like fun stuff in Star Wars. It doesn't all need to be thought-provoking guy sitting at a desk quietly mumbling at other guy who's sitting at a desk. I like Star Wars when it's fun, big action. Sue me. I don't know. But on that same topic, I feel this kind of the same way about Obi-Wan Kenobi. I like the show. I still own every single Black Series figure that came out for Obi-Wan Kenobi and Book of Boba Fett. Again, you can't see either of those shelves. They're kind of out of the field of view of the camera. But, I mean, they're cool. I like the action figures. I think there's cool concepts in both shows. Wasn't really a big fan of how much of a focus Reva had in the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. I felt like she kind of took away from more time that I wanted to spend specifically on the two mains, Anakin and Vader. Loved little Leia. There's a lot of stuff that I'm just unbothered by that I feel like a lot of people nitpick with Star Wars. But that's Star Wars though. Again, I've said it before. It's our double-edged sword with Star Wars fandom. It's our greatest strength and our greatest weakness is our passion for the franchise. Yeah, I mean, Acolyte even, same thing. I mean, there's a lot in Acolyte that I really don't care for, a lot. But, I mean, like, especially the ending. I was not a fan of the ending of season 1 of that show, but I can confidently say that I really enjoyed the 5th episode of the show, and every fight scene in the show was awesome. I loved it. I really did. I liked all the scenes of the Jedi Temple. I thought the whole thing was fun. You know, like, there's just, that's like my glass half full, you know, like, frolicking and skipping through the field view on everything is just, I think partially it comes from, like, I deal with enough in my real life, my day-to-day life, enough stressors, enough things to get frustrated and upset about, that, like, I don't need to carry that energy into Star Wars. You know, I will obviously criticize things when they need criticized. I will obviously share my opinion and be completely honest and transparent, but yeah, I am just not, like, I just don't see a need to, like, keep harping on things and beating a dead horse. I think that's, like, my biggest Star Wars, like, maybe a hot take is, like, I just don't care to keep bringing up the same 5 things anymore. You know? Not for me. Let's see. I'm looking around now, seeing what I can find here. I am a big fan of, obviously, the Clone Wars era, but part of that, I think, is, you know, my obsession with clone troopers, and I never can stop talking about them. It's so funny. I think they had, like, there's a lot of appeal to them. They have cool armor, especially, like, let's talk Clone Wars clones. Cool armor, personalities, individualism. They do cool stuff, battling, fighting. As a kid who was also, like, a history geek, I loved history. I'd read, like, history books as a kid and stuff, and, like, social studies was my favorite subject in middle school and high school. I always did really well in those classes with, like, 0 studying required. And yeah, I mean, I think it kind of just, like, scratches that itch of, like, the World War II / Vietnam, like, you know, wartime history. You have soldiers, you know, all look the same, but they're not all actually the same, and it's great. Like, I don't know. I really like that. Let me think. Just, like, anything else that I want to talk about here. Let me tell you about some of my other favorite characters in Star Wars. Here's a take. Rogue One is what made me like the Rebel Alliance. I said it. There we go. I said it. I didn't care about the Rebel Alliance at all. I thought they were a boring mid-faction. Just a bunch of people in clothes versus an empire that wears cool, badass armor. You know, that bright, shiny, stark white armor versus people in clothes. Guy in clothes, girl in clothes. Rinse and repeat. Alien in clothes. Boring. But what Rogue One did was give me a really deeply compelling story about the people in the rebellion, and that is what totally made me do a 180, and that's why Rogue One is one of my favorite Star Wars movies of all time, is because it took something that I was lukewarm on and really, really made me enjoy it a lot more. Particularly, I was talking about favorite characters. I'm just going to say it. K2SO is one of my favorite Star Wars characters. He's snarky, he's funny, but not too snarky and not too over the top. I feel like he fits a great middle ground with, like, sense of humor, because the humor is so authentic, and obviously part of it is Alan Tudyk's phenomenal delivery of his lines as he voices that character. It's just a lot of fun to really watch that performance, and time, I never get tired or bored of K2SO. I've never rolled my eyes at K2SO. Never have I watched him on screen and one of his jokes didn't land. Like, he just is, it's a very great, subtle character, and I think his lack of facial expression really helps sell that as well. You know, he's being funny without being funny. Let's see. What else can I tell you guys about? I'm just kind of, like, looking around now, because I don't know. I'm trying to think of, like, other things that I haven't mentioned on the podcast before, because I'm trying to, like, tell you guys a little bit about me, you know? When I was a kid, I was huge into, you know, obviously Star Wars video games on the Wii, the Nintendo Wii specifically. So I did also have Lego Star Wars: A Complete Saga on the Wii, as well as the PlayStation, and then I also had the Clone Wars Heroes of the Republic game. That game is awesome. Or it's Republic Heroes? I think it's Republic Heroes game. That game is awesome. That one also really contributed to my love of clone troopers, like really, really deeply. Sergeant Kano was definitely my favorite. And I think Boomer was the other clone. I think he was the ARF trooper. But yeah, Sergeant Kano was my favorite clone trooper from that game. I'd go out of my way to play as that character whenever and wherever I could. And honestly, I would only play on replay. I remember I'd only play the clone levels. I had no interest in playing the Jedi levels whatsoever. Let's see. Ooh, here's a take I don't think you guys are ready to hear. Guys, everyone's going to unsub after this. The Mandalorian Season 3 is a good season of the show. And it's consistent and on par with the other two seasons. I said it. I said I know. Oh, I can already hear the comments. I can hear clicking and clacking away on the keyboard. How dare you say that? No, I'm just kidding. Mandalorian Season 3 for me, it was like, it felt more like what it really was putting the wars in Star Wars again, you know? And I think that it was an integral part of moving the larger narrative of the Mandoverse forward. You know, you had a lot of opportunity with Mando Season 3 to really just tie a nice bow on the Mandalorian story so we could go back to it if we wanted to, but we can also move things along in other spaces and have Din Djarin at the ready to go do other things and help other people. We even kind of set the groundwork for what the Mandalorian Grogu movie is going to be about, which is Mando and Grogu doing jobs for Carson Teva for the New Republic. We set that up. And he's ready. He's done with the conflict. Moff Gideon, we think, has been actually defeated this time. Just saying. We don't know for sure, but I want to believe he's been defeated. Be cool if he wasn't. Could you imagine Moff Gideon and Grand Admiral Thrawn on the same playing field? Now that would be crazy, wouldn't it? But yeah, I think the show was fine. I really liked seeing all the Mandalorians. I really liked seeing, I know it's like, you know, Blue Mando, it's like a whole thing, but it's like, man, I really liked it. I really liked seeing all the different designs. I really liked seeing everybody team up and, you know, just like a larger scale conflict. I feel like that hasn't been in Star Wars in a minute, especially in these new shows. And I feel like that's one of the things that the new shows are missing. Here's another take. I think that the totality of the Disney era of Star Wars has done more good for Star Wars than bad. You can not like some of the movies, you can not like some of the shows, you can not like any of it, but Star Wars has definitely stayed in the limelight for good reason. I mean, there's been a lot of really phenomenal stuff to come out. Andor, obviously. I think we can all agree on Andor. The Mandalorian revolutionized, brought Star Wars back to the mainstream. The normies were talking about Star Wars again with the release of The Mandalorian. Yeah, I think that Disney's they're doing fine. They've had missteps, they've screwed stuff up, they've made me unbelievably angry at times and frustrated and annoyed, but they've done a pretty good job with a pretty good track record of content. You know what we need? I'm looking at my shelves here. Bad Batch. Now that Bad Batch is concluded, Star Wars, you need to give me a follow-up show, whether it's a short mini-series or full series with Captain Rex, Echo, Gregor, Wolf, Hauser. I need to see what happens with all those characters. I don't care if it's Tales of the Clones. I don't care how they go about it. Just give me some conclusions there. I need to know what happens to Commander Cody. What happens to him? You know, that's the real thing. That's what I need to know about. I want to see that. And I think that it's okay to keep revisiting these characters because there's more story to tell. There really is. And I think that the path, if they do something with the path from the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, which is one of the greatest things that the Obi-Wan Kenobi series gave us, that'd be a great way to really incorporate a lot of legacy characters. You could bring back Asajj Ventress through that, Quinlan Vos, Cad Bane, the clones. There's a lot you can, and even Ahsoka can get in the mix. Find out how she becomes Fulcrum. You know, that'd be cool. I'm into that. I want to see it on screen. I want to see it happen. See, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. What other like takes do I have? Let's see. As far as like Star Wars movies go, like when I was a kid, even like Attack of the Clones, like I really, really liked everything that happens on Geonosis and Kamino. Those were like the only parts that I really cared about from that movie. Just such cool action, and like I love the atmosphere of Kamino. Like I want to have like a bedroom or something that like has that Kaminoan atmosphere, where it's like the stark whites with like, you know, the dark rainy outside. Like I don't know, that whole planet just to me like reminds me of the early 2000s. You know, just everything about it reminds me of the vibe of the early 2000s. And it's obviously I might be biased too because it's you know, Clone Trooper, but I really enjoy it. Let's see. I'm kind of just like racking my brain right now because I feel like I had some stuff that I was gonna say. Of course, I didn't write it down that I forgot about. Can we just talk about, though, let's say definitively that clone troopers are superior to stormtroopers in every single way? I don't care what you have to say. This is a non-negotiable for me. Like, clone troopers they look cooler, they're better trained, they have better looking and better working weapons, their equipment is cooler. Like, an ATTE is cooler than an AT-AT. I said it, sue me. Guess what else? A BARC speeder is cooler than an Imperial speeder bike. I said it. Keep getting mad. Read it and weep. An ATRT is better than an ATST. I'm going to keep going. Everything about them, I don't know. I always preferred them. And that's kind of maybe also why, like, just these preferences I've had since I was younger might also contribute to why I was kind of lukewarm on the original trilogy as a kid, as opposed to like in my adult years. I'm much more like partial to the original trilogy. I think I have the ability and the brain power now to appreciate what the original trilogy did for not just Star Wars but for film. And that's, again, like A New Hope is my favorite Star Wars movie. I never would have said that as a kid. No way in hell. But I think Star Wars is a testament to having just some sort of grip on you when you're a kid and you kind of like really identify with the Star Wars you grew up with. Like, I don't know many people that grew up with the prequels but like so heavily identify themselves, like, unless you're like a cinephile, like a film bro. Like, I don't really see many people that, you know, very strongly prefer original trilogy over prequel trilogy. I mean, you could say they're better movies, but I know most people like my age, they prefer the prequel trilogy, just that era, you know. Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. It's okay to have fun with Star Wars. I think, you know, that was kind of the reason I wanted to just like yap aimlessly on this episode, was just like talking about Star Wars is fun. And after such like a heavy episode last week, I really wanted to like give some of my takes, like stupid takes on Star Wars. I don't know. It's a lot of fun to me. I really enjoy Star Wars as a whole. I really enjoy the franchise. I will continue to watch everything that comes out. Oh, consume. Don't care. Whatever. I'm going to still buy action figures from all the new media. Consume, shill. Don't care. Literally don't care. Read it and weep. But yeah, man, I don't know. Just like lots of fun things to talk about with Star Wars. Like, I don't know. I mean, here's a crazy take. This one might get me. This one, when I was a kid, obviously it was Padme over Leia all day. But I think as an adult, I think it's Leia over Padme. I'm just saying. That's my take as an adult. I think I've matured a little bit. If you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, I don't know. it's fun with Star Wars because there's always something new to appreciate. You know, it's as you grow up, I appreciate so many things, and I notice so many things with Star Wars now I didn't notice or appreciate 10, 15, 20 years ago. And I have a whole completely different view of Star Wars than I did then. And I hope that in 20 more years I will have an even more, complex and in-depth relationship with Star Wars, and I continue to, foster that critical thinking, what can this mean, what can that mean idea to Star Wars. I really enjoy that. But yeah, I think that it's just a lot of fun to talk Star Wars. I don't know. Let's see if I have one other good one before we get out of here. This was just super off the cuff. I wanted this episode to just be me rambling, just talking, rambling. I get to tell you a little bit about myself, where I came from with Star Wars. You have a new YouTube channel to check out, 1313 Podcast. You have, you can go scroll down on my Blitz Bounties Instagram page and find my Star Wars outlet posts. Let's see. What else? Oh, Dad, this one's for you. Star Wars action figures that don't have bendy knees and bendy elbows are stupid garbage figures. When I was a kid, my dad will tell you. Shout out Commander Bly. And I have, just because he's within arm's reach, I have my TVC Arc Commander Blitz here. But when I was a kid, I would cast aside any action figure that did not have bendy knees and bendy elbows. And I think, honestly, that's the reason why kids aren't as into Star Wars action figures with all these kid lines Hasbro is trying to do with these 5 POA nonsense. I think if you can do more than 5 POA, you should do more than 5 POA, because look at this guy. I know I keep bringing him up to the camera, but you can't get a pose like this, even on a figure, a quote-unquote super articulated antenna mold clone trooper from 2005. You can't get the natural attitude of this pose right here, and I just love that Star Wars toys keep evolving and changing over time. They've regressed in some ways, and then they've also improved in a lot of ways, and I think that that's also a reflection of Star Wars and Lucasfilm as a whole. They've regressed in some ways, and I wish that they would do some things differently, but overall, I think that they've generally improved on what they're doing, even from when they just got the franchise 12 years ago now. God, I'm getting so old. That happened 12 years ago now. And I know all the old heads right now. Oh, Tommy, you're saying you're getting old? I remember when the Morse code was the only way to... No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. I think that might be all I have for you guys. Just a fun, lighthearted Star Wars yap sesh. I could sit here all night and do this kind of thing. Look around the room and be like, what can I talk about? And then find a thing to hone in on. But yeah, that's a little bit about me. Also, my favorite lightsaber color used to be blue. I used to be a big blue lightsaber guy. But I think right now it's orange. Orange or yellow is my favorite lightsaber color right now. Yeah, that's a little bit about me. Let me lightning round myself. Favorite Star Wars movies: A New Hope. Favorite Star Wars show is The Clone Wars. Favorite Star Wars character: Grand Admiral Thrawn. Let's see. Favorite lightsaber color: would I be a Jedi or a Sith? Obviously, I'd be a Jedi. Who's my favorite bounty hunter? It's a tough one. It's between Boba Fett and Cad Bane for me. And Bosk. Bosk is up there too. So is Embo. And Dirge. I forget about Dirge. Favorite Clone Legion, easily the 501st, but I also have a strong affinity for the Wolfpack, 104th Battalion. Favorite Star Wars video game would probably be... Battlefront 2 2017. Favorite game, but I think that Jedi Survivor is close behind. Let's see. Favorite era of Star Wars is the prequel era, obviously. And yeah, let me think of one hot take to leave you guys with, and then we'll wrap up this episode. My Star Wars hot take for you all. This would be a good time to have hybrid toy reviews around, wouldn't it? For Star Wars hot takes. My hot take. Ooh, this will make you guys mad. For me personally, Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back, is a middle-of-the-pack Star Wars movie. That was me running away so I don't get canceled for that one. But I'll leave you guys with that. Let me know how much that made you angry in the comments section down below, guys. That was just a fun episode. I thought, you know what, there's a lot of stuff I've had on my mind recently, a lot going on. I kind of just thought I would sit down and just BS on a podcast episode. So here we are. We achieved that. Let me know, a little bit about yourselves in the comment section, or you can join my Discord. We can talk a little more about your Star Wars takes, your Star Wars opinions. Do you have similar opinions to me on some of the stuff I talked about or not? Let me know, guys, in the description below. As always, again, check out all the links. Buy this merch. This merch is so cool. It's really high quality merch. I enjoy it. I'm totally not biased when I say that. No, it's actually good merch, though. But yeah, with that, guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Blitzcast. I'll catch you for the next one, and may the Force be with you.
Breaking off. All units, fire at will. 1-2, pick a target. Too many, Captain. Watch your stabilizer, Gold 6. Anybody cover me. I got 2 vultures on my tail. Gotta hold them here. Watch your left. I can't shake them. I'm hit. Where's our reinforcements?